Shocking truth, the Antarctica spaceship from 1939 wasn't alien, it's a warning from Earth's future. In the icy desolation of Antarctica, beneath the unrelenting, howling winds, a secret lay buried, a gargantuan metallic structure that defied all reason and logic. Spanning hundreds of feet, its surface glimmered with a haunting luminescence, an eerie reminder of a civilization long gone. Frigid air clung to it like a ghostly veil, whispering tales of a forbidden knowledge that mankind was never meant to uncover. Those who dared to approach felt a shiver creep up their spine, an uncanny sensation as if the spaceship itself was watching, biding its time for the perfect moment to reveal its shocking truth. The first strange element appeared like a scene from a fever dream, a series of incomprehensible symbols etched across its cracked exterior. They pulsed softly, seemingly alive, shifting and rearranging as if showcasing tales of the future. Local scientists, once skeptics, became fast believers as their eyes widened with fear and fascination. Each symbol hinted at a dire message, one that warned of cataclysms yet to come. What could they mean? You could taste the tension in the air, thick and suffocating, as the enormity of it all sank in like a stone in your gut. Rumors spread like wildfire. The whispers crept into everyday conversations. "It's not from outer space," they murmured with trembling lips. "It's a warning from our own timeline." People began to speculate, projecting their own fears onto the unknown vessel. What horrible scenarios lay ahead? Throats tightened as images of apocalyptic futures danced like fireflies in the minds of those who dared to dream of a better life. A community once united, now divided by paranoia, watched as the truth loomed closer, an irony of history echoing through the ages. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But the saga didn't end there. A group of brave explorers, equipped with more than just scientific instruments, decided to approach the ship, their hearts pounding wildly against their ribs. What truths would they unearth? As darkness fell, shadows shifted in eerie shapes. Suddenly, a thunderous crash echoed through the stillness. The ship's dormant mechanisms awakened as if sensing the intruders. The ground trembled, and with it, the air turned electric. What would they unlock? The secrets of existence, or the terrors of our very future? They were on the brink of discovery, standing teetering on the edge of fate. The unknown lay ahead like a black hole, ready to swallow them whole. The explorers hesitated, eyes darting nervously among each other, as the sound of the ship's mechanisms reverberated like a distant thunderstorm. It was a low growl that sent chills down their spines. They had come seeking answers, but this was a warning, a plea from something greater than themselves. The very ground beneath them felt alive, pulsing with a force that seemed to breathe with anticipation. "Did you hear that?" Sarah, the youngest among them, whispered, her voice barely carrying above the howling wind. Her heart raced as she spoke, unsure if they were about to unravel the threads of time, or if they were playing with forces meant to remain untouched. "Yeah," Mark replied, his eyes wide. The scientist had devoted his life to studying the stars, but nothing could prepare him for this. The symbols flashed ominously before him, their meanings growing clearer, yet the clarity froze his blood. They depicted not just one catastrophe, but many, a cascading series of disasters woven together like a hellish tapestry. With a shared, silent agreement, they stepped closer, the metal of the craft gleaming against the dim light of their lanterns. Its surface was cold and hard, a monument to forgotten voices frozen in time. As they approached, more symbols lit up, revealing sequences like a cursed language, each translation a shuddering revelation. "Wait!" Michael, the group's self-proclaimed leader, raised a hand, signaling for silence. An echoing whir rang out, cascading through the air like a warning bell. The spaceship's port began to slide open, revealing darkness deeper than the Antarctic night outside. The group's collective breath caught in their throats. What dwelled within? It wasn't just a ship, it felt like a gateway. Do we go in? Sarah asked, her body trembling not from the cold but from dread. The others shifted, glancing back at the edges of their old lives, contemplating the choices that had led them to this moment. Think of what we could find, Mark urged, his scientist curiosity overpowering the instinct to flee. This could change everything. What if we're meant to see this? As if responding to his words, the air thickened, filled with static energy, and the symbols on the ship glowed brighter, turning the once still snow into a surreal canvas of light and shadow. Voices began to echo within the ship, faint but urgent, a melancholic chorus of warnings from lost souls. Just then, a blast of freezing wind hit them, almost knocking them back. Panic flickered through the group. Then the ground trembled once more, this time more violently, a seismic shake that felt almost sentient. It was a response to their hesitation, a message that screamed to move forward or suffer dire consequences. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, Michael took a step forward into the darkness. We have to know, he declared, his resolve solid amid the chaos. One by one, the others followed, a march into the unknown. Inside, the air was stale, thick with an electric charge. Their flashlights illuminated walls adorned with more symbols, writing not of the past, but of ominous futures, torn landscapes, shattered cities, and darkening skies. Everything they knew could be at stake. What if we're not meant to change it? Sarah's voice quaked, a seed of doubt planted amid their resolve. What if we're just meant to watch it happen? But before anyone could respond, the ship shuddered. A heavy silence fell as they reached the center of command, a vast control panel, flickering with erratic lights. A screen flickered to life, and as it did, a face appeared. It was human but distorted, eyes wide with terror. Warning, it echoed, the voice warped and glitchy. You must abandon this ship. The future cannot be changed, it must be fulfilled. The earth rumbled again, growling beneath them, as chaos unfolded. The very fabric of reality felt as if it was about to rip apart, and just then, the screen blinked, showing a date that sent ice-blooded fear coursing through their veins. It was tomorrow. Run! Michael shouted, adrenaline surging as they turned to flee, but the ship wouldn't let them go easily. What lay ahead was not salvation but possibly their end. A choice was looming, but which path would lead to death and which to survival? Would they escape in time, or was fate already sealed? They sprinted deeper into the ship, the vibrations beneath their feet escalating into a chaotic roar. The once familiar din of wind outside morphed into an overwhelming symphony of mechanical howls that echoed through the cold steel corridor. Sarah was panting, her breath coming in short gasps, nearly blinded by the flashing lights. Where do we go? She shouted, trying to navigate the twisting paths ahead. Each corner they turned, each door they passed, seemed to lead them deeper instead of providing a way out. The voices that had begun as whispers now crescendoed into a chorus of panic. Focus! Mark yelled from behind, but his own voice barely cut through the noise. We need to find a control panel, something to reverse whatever is happening. What if we can't? Sarah shot back, her eyes wide with fear and disbelief. Then we'll die trying. Mark's response was firm, a blend of determination and desperation that made hers falter. The ship trembled violently, and a shower of sparks erupted from the ceiling. Michael, taking charge, shouted over the chaos, Look! That room on the left, the panel must be in there. They barreled toward the room, but as they neared it, the very floor quaked beneath them. A warning light flared red, pulsing in time with the ominous growls of the machinery around them. The air thickened, feeling electric and heavy, pressing down on their lungs. With a desperate push, Michael forced the door open. They stumbled into a wide space filled with futuristic technology unlike anything they had ever seen. Screens flickered, casting a ghostly light on their faces, displaying scenes of devastation, cities in flames, landscapes torn to shreds, skies cracked open revealing storms of fury. What is this place? Sarah gasped, her heart racing. A control center, Mark whispered, eyes glued to the screens. This is what they were afraid of. They weren't just a warning, they were showing us the aftermath of our mistakes. Suddenly, the screen shifted, and an image materialized, an enormous clock counting down. It hit them like a punch to the gut. They only had hours left, and with each tick, terror clawed at their insides. The countdown quickened, a metronome of impending doom. "Stop it!" Michael shouted, desperately pressing buttons, hands shaking. But nothing seemed to work. The machinery fought back, locking them out. Alarms blared louder. The sound was deafening, drowning out even their mounting panic. "Let me try." Mark stepped up, typing furiously, his expert fingers navigating the interface. "If I can just there." The emergency protocols. The screens displayed an error, flashing red. Still, Mark pressed on, desperation fueling his movements. "We have to shut it down. If we don't." A voice boomed throughout the chamber, mechanical yet human. "Warning, interference detected. Destruction inevitable." The ship shook violently again, sending them staggering into each other. Michael gripped the edge of the control panel, eyes wild. "What do we do? We can't just sit here. It's too late," Sarah cried, her fears manifesting physically as her hands went cold. "We should never come inside. This was a trap." "No!" Mark yelled back, a flicker of anger breaking through his fear. "We can get out. We just have to find the core system. It'll reset everything." But the seconds slipped away. With every heartbeat, they felt her pulse quicken, the ship screaming at them to leave. "Now wait," Michael's expression shifted. "What if that countdown is a warning for us to witness what comes next? What if we were meant to see this, to understand there is still time to change?" "No!" Sarah's voice rose. "You can't mean," but Mark interrupted, grabbing Michael's arm. "We either face this together or we're lost to it." The arguing fell silent as the clock struck 10 minutes remaining. Shadows began to shift around them, twisting into grotesque shapes in the flashing lights. "Run!" Michael commanded, seizing Sarah and pulling her toward the exit. But as they turned, a wall of energy surged to life, sealing their only way out. What lay beyond their escape now? Was there truly no path back, only a bleak future waiting to swallow them whole? Or would the truth reveal its face at the brink of their demise? As their hopes began to flicker, the screens shifted again, showing the aftermath of the now familiar date, tomorrow. Would time betray them? And more hauntingly, were they mere spectators, or active participants in a fate already written? The walls pulsed with energy, the countdown looming like a dark cloud above them. Every second felt like an hour, an eternity of dread. Michael turned back to the screens, desperation flooding his thoughts. What could he do? They were trapped in a chamber of chaos, with only the flickering images of devastation surrounding them. "Look!" Sarah shouted, pointing at a screen displaying a live feed from outside the ship. The sky cracked open, sending bolts of lightning tearing through the clouds. It was a scene of horror, cities drowned in floodwaters, buildings crumbling as if shaking under the weight of impending doom. That's not some distant future, it's happening now. Mark's fingers flew over the control panel, his focus so intense that it felt like that moment could crack under pressure. If we can just find a way to reroute power to the navigation system, we might be able to jumpstart the ship and escape. He pulled up a schematic, lines glowing under the red emergency lights. But how do we know it's not the ship that's causing all this? Sarah was shaking her head, the fear in her eyes matching the shadows that danced around them. What if it's tethered to that countdown? What if we just make things worse? Better than standing here waiting for an explosion. Mark shouted, voice strained against the noise. If this whole place is a warning, we've got to warn others. We can't let this moment repeat itself. Suddenly, the voice returned, booming through the air like an ominous drumroll. Warning, time is expiring. Activation protocols required. Prepare for termination. The ground lurched beneath them once more, and sparks erupted from control panels. Michael stumbled back, feeling like a marionette with its strings cut. The very air crackled with tension as the walls pulsated ominously. Sweat poured down his neck. Was this ship alive? "Michael, we need to make a decision. Now." Sarah's voice broke through his haze. Either we find a way to escape, or we stay here until whatever horrifying fate awaits us is upon us. The countdown ticked away, each second ringing in their ears. 6 minutes left. What have we done? Michael whispered, a tide of guilt washing over him. We're trapped because we wanted to unveil truths that should have remained hidden. Stop! Mark snapped, the urgency in his voice pushing aside their swirling fears. You want to debate morality? We have a ship to save or die trying. If we're dying today, let us not go down without a fight. His hands danced over the controls, fury and frustration blending into a surge of action. As Mark worked, the screens burst into life, shifting between chaotic flashes of destruction and glimpses of the ship's control mechanisms. Something tugged at the back of Michael's mind. The patterns formed a map, a way out, a pathway etched in chaos. Look! He shouted, pointing to one part of the control panel. Those circuits, they might link to the auxiliary systems. If we can harness that energy. But as hope swelled, the room darkened. The lights flickered and went out, plunging them into near-complete darkness, save for the glow of the countdown. 3 minutes! Mark yelled, eyes wide with adrenaline. Get us out of here! Sarah shouted, panic creeping back into her voice. The shadows came alive, swirling menacingly, mocking their fear. As Mark worked frantically, Michael could feel his heart pounding harshly against his ribs. Could they really find a way to control the chaos? Through the sound of whirring machinery and their own thundering hearts, they pushed through the darkness, each moment thick with dread. Then, a deafening crash echoed as one of the monitors shattered, sending glass fragments scattering across the floor around them. A sudden gust of air rushed past, like the ship was trying to expel them, or maybe something worse. Get back! Mark shouted, shoving Michael away just as a shadow surged forward, morphing into a figure. We can't let it take us like this. As the darkness coalesced into a shape, a sharp gasp escaped Sarah's lips. They were not just facing their fate, something was feeding off their fear, growing stronger within the shadows. Time slipped through their fingers like sand as Mark pressed a final button, hoping beyond hope. The screens ignited again, this time displaying a single image, their faces, distorted in fear, encased in a looming shadow. The clock is ticking, whispered the voice, filling the chamber like cold water flooding over them. What was coming for them? Was the countdown merely a catalyst for some cosmic reckoning? Or could they uncover the truth hidden behind the very walls that threatened to consume them whole? The countdown continued, and the entity in the shadows lunged forward, ready to reveal its true form. Would they face their reckoning, or would their fate be sealed in darkness forever? The figure surged into the light, its form twisting and stretching, taking shape before them. A face emerged, but it was not a face at all, more a mosaic of all their worst fears, a collage of panic and despair. Dark eyes glistened like obsidian, probing and unyielding, and a silence fell over the chamber thick enough to drown them. What are you? Michael's voice trembled, breaking the oppressive stillness. The entity didn't speak. It seeped dread into the air, shrouding them with an understanding too horrifying to voice. They were intruders in a ghostly place, and this being knew their every misstep. Michael, focus! Mark shouted, snapping him back to the present as he wrestled with the control panel wildly. We can't let it distract us. Keep going. But Michael couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, that whatever stood before them absorbed their fear, relishing it. He felt sick, like his insides twisted and churned with uncertainty. Did they unleash this horror by unearthing secrets from the past? Just keep working. Sarah's voice broke through, laced with urgency. We need those auxiliary systems online. He fought the turbulence surging in his gut and focused on the panel. A myriad of wires and circuits loomed over him like a riddle begging to be solved. Could they regain control before time ran out? Look! Mark pointed, urgency lacing his tone as he spotted another schematic. If we reroute this section, it might give us just enough power for a jump. Do it! Sarah urged, her eyes darting between Mark and the looming figure that coiled with darkness. We have to try. With determination, Michael breathed deep and joined Mark. Their fingers flew over the controls, sweat blinding them as another bolt of energy crackled across the floor. The shadows flickered, pulling away from the console as if repelled by their effort. But the countdown continued mercilessly, blaring like a siren in their ears. 1 minute and 30 seconds. Just 30 heartbeats away from oblivion. Suddenly, the entity lunged, whipping through the air like a predatory shadow. "Fear is your downfall," it hissed, a screeching whisper that seeped into their bones. "I am your reckoning." Michael's heart thudded in his throat as he ducked sideways, but Mark didn't flinch. "We won't be judged by you," he shouted defiantly. Then, a flicker of resolve ignited inside Michael. "Wait!" He grabbed at the fraying edge of lucidity in the chaos. "Maybe if we confront what it represents, the fear, the doom, we can weaken its hold. We can't let it thrive on our doubt." "What are you saying?" Sarah's eyes widened with challenge. "Let us not fight it." "But name it." Michael's mind raced, fueled by a desperate hope. "Every fear we have to confess it. Face it together." Mark and Sarah exchanged looks, uncertainty warring with a surge of courage. There was no backing down now. "Fine," Mark said. "On 3. Let us do this." "Together," Sarah added, holding onto their hands, grounding them as adrenaline coursed through her veins. 3, 2, 1. As they shouted their worst fears, the words hung heavy in the air, spilling darkness out into the void. "I fear losing everything." Michael's voice rang clear. "I fear the truth that we can't change." Mark added, his tone sharper like shards of glass. "I fear being trapped in a cycle of despair." Sarah cried, eyes blazing with determination. The words tangled and twisted, wrapping around the entity. It shrieked, a cry of anguish reverberating through the chamber as a flickering light burst forth, illuminating the dim shadows and binding the figure momentarily. "Now!" Mark shouted, slamming the final button as chaos erupted. That flicker of light surged across the panel, sending a jolt of energy throughout the chamber. The lights flickered back on, swirling shadows retreating as cracks of energy pulsed through the walls. Reality twisted, each crack widening like the rift of time itself. Michael stumbled, his heart racing as the countdown blared louder, the last seconds echoing through their minds. "We can't stop now." But just as they thought they could seize the upper hand, the room lurched violently. Everything tilted as if the floor cracked beneath them. The monstrous shadow screeched, unraveling before their eyes, revealing a torrent of memories and nightmares. "What is happening?" Sarah screamed, holding onto the console as everything spiraled. In an instant, a piece of the wall exploded, a vibrant flash revealing a vision of their world in ruin, a future so devastating it crushed hope to bits. Buildings toppled in the wake of storms. Humanity was on the brink of extinction, all from their own choices. "What did we do?" Mark breathed, horror etched into his expression. As they fought the chaotic energy, everything they had uncovered loomed before them. The truth they sought to unveil had repercussions deeper than any of them could grasp. And as the wall began to collapse in on them, Michael grasped the truth, but the reality might be far worse than any of them had imagined. The chamber howled as their fates intertwined with a cosmic prophecy. Would they escape the approaching tide of terror, or would they be swallowed whole by their own reckoning? The countdown blared only seconds away from calamity, dust and debris swirling in a frenzy of darkness. Would they find a way out, or face the consequences of revealing too much too soon? And as the light faded into a piercing darkness, a voice echoed, "You will face your choice." What choice would that be? The darkness enveloped them, and the countdown blared relentlessly in the background, a countdown to doom. Michael struggled to assess their surroundings, but confusion twisted his senses like a vice. "Hold on!" Sarah yelled, her voice rising over the chaos. The ground trembled, and they staggered, almost losing their footing. "We need to find a way out of here." Mark peered through the fading shadows, searching for anything in exit, a console, anything that could guide them to safety. The vision of their ruined future resurfaced in his mind, a haunting reminder of what lay ahead if they didn't act swiftly. "The console!" he shouted, pointing to the flickering machine at the center of the chamber. "If we can get there, Maybe we can reverse this. Sweat dripped down Michael's face, mixing with the dust all around. Each pulse of his heart felt like a drum echoing in a hollow chamber. "Let us go!" he shouted, determination boiling inside him. They sprinted, adrenaline propelling them forward as debris crashed down all around. As they reached the console, a surge of energy shot through the air, stunning them momentarily. The monstrous shadow loomed behind them, writhing as if caught in a tempest of color and despair. "You cannot escape!" it bellowed, its voice a corrosive mixture of laughter and sorrow. Michael's breath quickened. "We need to reroute the energy flow, find a way to redirect it back at that thing." Mark nodded, fingers trembling over the sacred controls, straining to decipher the chaotic diagrams flashing before him. "We have to override the core. Give me a second." The seconds felt like hours. The intensity of their fear lingered in the shadows, clawing at them, wrapping like vines around their throats, choking out their hope. "Please!" Sarah cried, her voice cracking. "You have to do it before it's too late. We're out of time." From behind, the entity hissed ominously, a palpable threat that twisted in the air. "You think your will can bend destiny?" it taunted, advancing with a hunger only found in nightmares. "I want to let the future become the past," Mark shouted, feisty determination igniting a spark in his eyes. "Michael, attack that interface. We have to create a feedback loop when I press this button. Pull the main circuit." Michael didn't hesitate. He leaped to the interface, his heart racing like a wild horse. He grasped a fraying wire, feeling the hum of energy surging beneath its surface. He had no time for hesitation, only action. "Now!" Mark barked, and they moved in perfect sync, their instincts melding into a fluid dance of desperation as they worked together to redirect power toward the entity. The energy crackled, brightening the chamber with an unholy glow. An electric scream erupted from the shadows, reverberating through the walls. "You will pay for this! We're not your prisoners!" Sarah screamed, courage overloading her fear. The chamber shifted, and the previous visions of destruction surged, revealing more possibilities, more time frames where things had gone irrevocably wrong. Just as the surge peaked, the countdown reached its deadly end. An explosion of blinding light erupted, engulfing everything. Time felt suspended, caught in a moment where they might break free or spiral into hellish depths of despair. But against all odds, the shadows recoiled, the entity howling as the energy surged back toward it, illuminating the chamber and revealing every ghastly face it wore. They saw echoes of their mistakes, people they had failed, choices left behind. It was all there, tangled in its form. "All that you fear, all you've hidden," the entity screeched, intensifying the storm of memories. "It belongs to you." The trio felt the weight of that truth crash down on them. Their past, present, and the possibilities of a dire future twisted together around them like a tempest. But in that place of darkness, they clung to hope. "We control our fate," Michael yelled defiantly. "We choose to face it." With one final, resounding blast, energy burst forth, engulfing the figure. An ear-splitting scream echoed in the chaos, and silence fell. But in the eerie stillness, fragments of light sparkled like shattered glass, revealing hidden pathways illuminated by their determination. As the dust settled, a new silhouette appeared before them, an entrance shimmering with potential. But where would it lead? What if we fail again? Mark mused, anxiety threading through his voice. Sarah grabbed their hands, confidence igniting a flame in her eyes. "We won't. We can't. That future won't be ours." With hearts pounding and minds racing, they hesitated only a moment before sprinting toward the glimmering hope that beckoned them forward. What awaited them on the other side of this doorway? The air felt heavy, charged with looming uncertainty. Would they discover salvation, or would they uncover the harsh, unforgiving truths they had buried deep? Only one way to find out. The world whirled around them as they dove through the shimmering entrance. The moment they crossed the threshold, a blast of icy wind struck their faces, sending shivers through their bodies. They stumbled into a vast, snow-covered landscape, blindingly white under an overcast sky. "Where are we?" Michael gasped, looking around, disoriented. A frozen wasteland sprawled out before them, broken only by jagged mountains that clawed at the sky. The air was thick with an unnatural silence, broken only by the soft crunch of snow underfoot. Sarah shivered, wrapping her arms tightly around herself, her eyes darting nervously. Mark took a deep breath, trying to steady his racing heart. This can't be it, there has to be a reason we're here. He stepped forward, squinting at a ghostly structure half buried in snow toward the horizon. Look! Over there! The three of them trudged through the snow, fear mingling with curiosity. With every step, the feeling of foreboding grew heavier, wrapping around them like an impenetrable fog. As they approached, the strange building took shape, an old, run-down research station, its flaking paint and shattered windows indicating years of neglect. Why would a research station be out here frozen in time? Sarah pondered, apprehensively glancing back at Michael and Mark. Mark moved closer to the door, shoving it open with a gust of wind that blew through the opening. It creaked ominously on its rusty hinges, revealing an inside drenched in shadows. Let us go in, he urged, stepping through the threshold. Maybe we'll find something, anything that can help us understand what just happened. Inside, the air was stale, thick with the scent of rust and mildew. Old, cracked tiles lined the floors, and overturned furniture lay abandoned in corners, as if the researchers had left in a hurry. I don't like this, Sarah whispered, her voice barely an echo above the stillness. Michael flicked on his phone as flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing faded posters on the wall with cryptic diagrams and charts, tangled webs of connections that spiraled out of control. What could this mean? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from deeper within the building, rattling their nerves. What was that? Sarah gasped, eyes wide. Just the wind, Mark muttered, though doubt crept into his voice. Let us check it out, Michael suggested, trying to sound brave. His heart hammered as they cautiously stepped through the corridors, the cold chill seeping into their bones. The crash came again, this time louder. Maybe we should go back, Sarah urged, a tremor in her voice. But before they could retreat, a fluorescent light flickered to life down the hall, revealing a sprawling lab-like room filled with old computers and machinery, wires snaking across the floor. It felt like stepping into the past, but something was off, something breathed alive here. What if this place has something to do with that entity? Mark pondered, pushing through the door. The light buzzed ominously. They all felt the air shift as if the very walls were watching them. What if it's a trap? Sarah murmured, clutching Michael's arm, a rhythmic pulse of fear thrumming in her chest. Mark moved to a nearby console, excitement glimmering in his eyes. It might hold the answers we need. He hesitated for just a second, then powered it on. The screen flickered to life, flashing images of twisted futures, timelines overlapping, horrific visions of destruction and chaos. Words scrolled across the screen. Warning, repair required to prevent time collapse. Questions crashed through Michael's mind like waves. What does that mean? Before they could process the implications, the machine emitted a low, menacing growl, the lights flickering wildly. Suddenly, the ice beneath their feet cracked, threatening to give way. Run! Mark yelled, panic flooding his voice. They dashed back towards the entrance, but the ground trembled violently as a monstrous shape began to form in the mist behind them. A chilling roar shattered the icy air, and a grotesque figure emerged, echoing the nightmare they thought they left behind. Michael! We can't outrun it! Sarah screamed, her voice laced with desperation. Their fight for survival had just begun. But what lay ahead was shrouded in fear and darkness and absolute unknown. With barely a moment to gather their thoughts, they faced the nightmare of not just the past, but a future that was now closing in around them, like a tightening noose. Would they find a way to change their fate this time, or was it already too late? The ground quaked beneath them. Michael's instincts screamed for them to move, to run further away from the menace emerging from the depths of swirling snow. He spotted a heavy metal door to their left, half buried under a mound of snow. In there! Now! He shouted. They pounded toward the door, lungs burning, hearts racing. But the grotesque figure behind them loomed ever closer, its breath a frosty mist, slicing through the chill like a knife. They could hear its stomach-churning growls, a sound filled with hunger and dread. As they reached the door, Mark pushed it open, his muscles straining against resistance. The hinges screeched, but the door eventually creaked wide enough for them to squeeze inside. Once they were through, he slammed it shut behind them, locking the world outside. The sickening sounds of the creature's roar were muffled but still echoing like thunder in their hearts. They found themselves in a cramped metal chamber. Stale air swirled around them, thick with the ghostly essence of machines long forgotten. A dim red light flickered overhead, casting an eerie glow on the stark steel walls. "Is this another lab?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. Michael shined his flashlight around the room. Dilapidated equipment covered most surfaces, old monitors filled with static, dusty circuit boards, and scattered journals marked with peculiar symbols. "This isn't just a lab. It's a tomb of those who sought to escape or those who failed," he muttered, dread settling in his stomach. Mark rifled through the cluttered space, desperate for anything useful. He stumbled upon a tattered journal, the spine cracking as he opened it. "Look at this," he called out, his voice a mixture of excitement and fear. The pages were filled with frantic entries, almost illegible. Phrases bloated with urgency jumped out, making Michael's skin crawl. "We've uncovered a timeline breach, the entity isn't from the past but from the future?" Sarah repeated, standing closer as if the journal could offer her warmth. "Yeah, listen to this," Mark continued. "The research station was designed to monitor these disruptions. We need to fix the machinery or risk unleashing something catastrophic." Just then, the door rattled violently. The creature was thrashing against it, rage echoing in every thump. "We can't stay here. It will break through," Michael shouted, heart racing. They glanced around the room, desperate for a plan. A single console sat in the corner, dimly lit and fighting to stay alive. "This could be the control center," Mark yelled, racing toward it. "Wait! What if it's another trap?" Sarah warned, glancing back at the door, dread pooling in her gut. "I don't care. We have to do something," he shot back, fingers flying over the controls. Just then, the screen flickered alive, revealing chaotic graphs and diagrams, displaying the very timelines they had seen moments before. But something else caught Michael's eye: shapes moving across the screen, echoing the creature outside. "Those are the same readings. Whatever that thing is, it's linked to this. It's hunting us because we're in its territory," Sarah breathed, face pale. "Can't you stop it?" "I don't know. I just need more time," Mark exclaimed, sweat beading on his forehead. With every shudder of the door, new waves of panic surged. The creature roared once more, the sound punctuated by the splintering of wood. They felt the air pressure change, the thing outside becoming even more desperate. "Mark, hurry!" Michael urged, adrenaline coursing through him. "I'm trying," he said, desperation climbing. "If I can recalibrate the mainframe, we might be able to seal off the breach and trap it." "Seal it?" Sarah's voice was tight with fear. "What if it turns on us instead?" "We don't have a choice," Mark screamed back, fingers fumbling with the buttons. Suddenly, a loud crash punctuated the air as the door finally gave way, splintering into pieces. Frigid air howled into the room, whipping around them like a beast. Shadows surged forth, and from within them, the hideous creature lunged into the chamber. "Now! Mark, now!" Michael yelled, desperation fueling his voice. As fear clawed at their throats, a pulsing light began to emanate from the console, as if it had awakened to their words. But with that light came another, more vivid revelation, a glimpse into a horrifying future either of them was ready to accept. What would they discover when the veil of reality pressed down around them like the weight of snow? Could this machine be their salvation? Or was it only the beginning of a new nightmare they couldn't escape? The creature lunged into the chamber, its jaws wide, exposing a set of teeth that glistened like ice shards under the flickering lights. Michael's heart thundered as he dove to the side, barely evading the creature's grasp. Sarah screamed, her voice piercing the claustrophobic air, as she stumbled back against the console, her eyes wide with terror. "Mark! Do something!" she shouted, panic-laced urgency shredding her composure as she scrambled to her feet. With a frantic glance, Mark realized he had just seconds. The pulsing light from the console intensified, illuminating strange symbols that coiled across the surface. It felt alive, almost as if it were a sentient entity pleading for intervention. "Stay away from it!" he yelled at Sarah, urging her to the far end of the room. Michael felt the air shift again, the creature adjusting its weight. He could see the glacial stillness in its eyes, a chilling intelligence that made every hair stand on end. It was hunting, not just for them, but for something deeper, something within the machinery that linked time and space. "Mark! If you don't do something, we die!" Michael's voice was raw, desperation clawing at him as he darted toward the controls. Mark's fingers danced over the buttons, half of him paralyzed by dread while the other half wrestled to decipher the chaos before him. Lines of code scrolled across the screen like frantic soldiers battling against an unrelenting force. His mind raced. What if this creature feeds off our fear? What if it gets stronger with our panic? Suddenly, another horrendous roar echoed through the chamber as the creature lunged again. This time, it knocked the console backward, sending Mark sprawling to the ground. The screen buzzed, flickering rapidly between images, a timeline full of entities, disasters, and echoes of their own reality. "Get back!" Michael shouted, grabbing Sarah and pulling her closer to him as the creature swiped toward them, sending metal fragments flying. "Look!" she shouted, pointing at the screen, her breath mounting in excitement edged with fear. "It's showing us timelines? We can change things!" Mark struggled to pull himself up, heart hammering in panic. "We need to focus!" he yelled, trying to override the command codes through the chaos. "If we recalibrate the mainframe, we might disrupt whatever it is this creature wants." The creature's roar echoed, vibrating through the chamber like thunder. It was furious, thrashing against the console with terrifying force, but a flash of light sparked from the machine and energy ripple streaming toward the creature. "Mark! Do it now!" Michael urged, wrestling with the horrible urge to run. The vision on the screen shifted again, rapid flashes of what looked like their own faces twisted in anguish against mountains of ice. "This is our fate if we don't fix it." His words ignited a fire in Mark. Adrenaline surged in his veins as he focused on the flickering display. "I think I can harness the energy. It's here for a reason." Just as he slammed his hand down on the key labeled Engage, the creature howled, its fury ripping through the air, growing more frantic. "Yes!" Michael shouted, though fear still gripped him tightly. "We can do this! Put it in reverse!" With a sound like shattering glass, the console exploded with light, a brilliant flash swallowing the room, obscuring the creature's form. Michael shielded his eyes as electromagnetic energy churned and swirled, encasing the entity in ribbons of raw power. "Hold on!" Mark shouted, but the magnetic energy pulled at them, tugging on their flesh like invisible fingers brushing their skin, urging them into the light. In a desperate climax, everything around them exploded into vast darkness, replaced by haunting visions of future catastrophes. Howling winds ravaged desolate landscapes as shadows of their future selves loomed behind them, faces twisted by despair and regret. "What have we done?" Sarah's voice shook. "Transcended time, or ignited a new nightmare," Mark gasped. They could feel the echoes of energies lost to the void rippling at the edges of their very being. And from the darkness emerged whispers, echoes of warnings not yet deciphered, that would change everything they thought they knew about the creature and themselves. What truths awaited them in this new reality? Could they fix the timelines they had unleashed? Or were they already too late? The echoes of their urgency filled the vast void, fading slowly until silence enveloped them like an icy shroud. When the world finally returned, Michael blinked against the brightness, his eyes adjusting to an unearthly glow. They were no longer in the chamber of the research station but standing in an expansive, vibrant landscape, one that twisted the boundaries of time and space. "Where? What is this?" Sarah breathed, taking an instinctive step towards Michael and Mark. An array of colors swirled around them, shades of blue and green shimmering like the cosmos made manifest. In the distance stood an enormous structure, shimmering crystals protruding from the earth, pulsating softly as if alive. "It's beautiful," Mark whispered, mingling with fear. "But what happened? Did we succeed?" Michael felt a jolt of hope ignite within him, the uncertainty mixing with a flicker of clarity. "I think we did. We pushed back whatever that thing was. But we didn't just reverse it. We needed to evolve." The words resonated deep within him, their weight heavy with responsibility. Suddenly, figures emerged from the kaleidoscopic shadows, visions of themselves, altered and evolved. Glistening light surrounded their future selves, each one instilled with wisdom, liberation from the shackles of fear. One approached an image of Michael, older and wiser, strength pouring from his very essence. "You've changed the connection," the figure spoke, the voice deep with compassion. "You no longer stand in the grip of fear. You've embraced choice." "Choose?" Michael echoed, a shiver tracing his spine. "What do you mean?" The future image looked him in the eye, clarity shining through like a beacon. "Every choice creates a path. You've faced your fears, and in doing so, unleashed the power within you. Here and now, you have the chance to shape a new timeline, a future untainted by the shadows of the past." Mark's brows furrowed, his own likeness standing beside the future version of himself, filled with a fiery resolve. "But what about the entity?" he asked. "What if it returns?" "The darkness is not just an entity, it's a reflection of your fear," the shimmering image replied, spreading arms wide. "If you continue to confront it, if you embrace knowledge instead of chaos, it will dissolve. The choice is yours." As reality shook around them, Sarah stepped forward, heart racing. "What must we do?" she demanded, voice trembling but steadfast. "Connect with this realm, the energy, the understanding that you can change the course of time," the future version of her urged softly. "Choose to fight for a better future together. Remind the past that it doesn't define you." Michael exchanged a glance with Sarah and Mark. He felt the weight of their shared journey surge through him, a tapestry woven with heartache, fear, and ultimately unity. "Together," he said firmly, feeling a warmth spreading through his chest. "We were meant to learn to be stronger than before." In unison, they reached out to the luminous crystals surrounding them, hope pooling into a vibrant light, pulsating with energy. As their fingertips brushed the prisms, a wave of warmth washed over them, a reminder of their triumph over fear just moments ago. A spiral of insight filled the air, and their resolve crystallized into a powerful beacon shimmering with potential. The world around them began to hum, a synchronizing entity that pulsed with their heartbeat. Within moments, shimmering pathways opened before them, creating a mosaic of possibilities. Each twist and turn hinted at futures filled not just with survival, but thriving unity over division, courage over fear. It was a chance to rewrite the narratives, to uplift communities rather than fracture them into paranoia. Trembling hands clenched, and in that moment, they made their vow, a commitment to one another, to confront and nurture, to lead out of darkness rather than succumb to it. "In each other," Michael said, taking a deep breath, his voice steady with determination. "We've already started building a legacy." The imagery of their newer selves transformed, showing kindness, strength, and prosperity, a world reborn from the ashes of chaos. They were ready to face whatever darkness lingered, not only together but as leaders for those who had once walked in fear. As the kaleidoscope of colors intensified, their feelings coalesced into an unbreakable bond. "Let us go." Sarah smiled bravely, her courage shining brightest against the eerie stillness. Together they stepped forward, arms entwined, embracing the promises of what lay ahead, an awakening to a future of hope. And so, the light enveloped them completely, the energy of connection luminous, drenched with purpose. Their hearts raced, ready for the journey to begin once more, not as interlopers of their own lives, but as settlers of a future that was finally, truly their own. But wait, remember to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now, it helps more than you think. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.